Hey folks, Dave here, and as the title says, today I'm going to talk to you guys about why I think, for me personally, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is the best game that I have ever played. That's not an exaggeration, and it's not a spur-of-the-moment decision, even though I am talking about it right now just about an hour after I beat the game. I think I can use that not spur-of-the-moment card though, because I finished the game at roughly 210 hours of gameplay. To reiterate though, this is just my opinion, but I'd like to talk to you guys about how The Witcher 3 for me became not just the excellent game that most reviewers agreed that it was, but one of the most immersive and consistently enjoyable game experiences that I've ever had. And honestly, I want to talk about why I'm sad that it's over and why I hope that CD Projekt Red does continue the Witcher series in the future. This discussion does need just a little bit of backstory. If you guys missed the video that myself and Germ Gaming posted in May, early May, called "If You're Not Excited for The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, You're Wrong," let me bring you up to speed. Both myself and Germ Gaming are huge fans of the Witcher universe. I discovered The Witcher on a Steam sale back in 2010, so I was a little bit late playing it. I think Jeremiah did actually play the original game before I did. But I had never seen a game that was what I would consider dark fantasy. I love any kind of fantasy universe that is very, very grounded. And for The Witcher 3, you have the medieval feeling to the universe. It's a very raw and very real and very just understandable universe in the world of The Witcher. Elements of the game that are supernatural or magical are treated with a good amount of awe and respect. And I love that sense of mystery in any kind of fantasy, either books or games or movies or anything like that. I love reading about the backstory of Gandalf in the Lord of the Rings series and the massive amount of lore and history that backs up that universe, and yet how grounded the main series is. In the Game of Thrones series, I think it's fantastic how anything magic is assumed to be just religious nuttery and just not true. And of course in The Witcher, magic is a very obvious thing that everyone is aware of, but it's something that is feared and condemned, and people who use magic, or anyone who's just not normal, elves or dwarves or mutants like witchers, are cast out from society, and that just sets up a really interesting universe. So like I said, right off the bat, the world itself just instantly immersed me. It was identifiable, but still had a bit of mystery and intrigue. And then of course you had the writing. Even back in The Witcher 1, the plot lines, the characters, the dialogue, the quests. I had played RPGs before. I'm of course a fan of the Elder Scrolls series like a lot of people. But this was kind of next tier writing and stories. Things caught me by surprise, and I found myself really enjoying the journey, more than any other RPG I'd played before. One advantage to not playing the first Witcher game until 2010 was that The Witcher 2 was about to come out within about, I think, 14 months or so after I beat the first game. I didn't have to wait long. Of course, by then I was sold on the game, on its world, and on the developers as being able to make a fantastic and fan-serving product, so I dove right into The Witcher 2. To my surprise, they had gone ham. I mean, a brand new game engine, a more linear game, but one more focused on political intrigue and in-depth quest lines, and once again I found myself amazed at what appeared to be a AAA Witcher game just out of nowhere. Honestly guys, the only disappointment for me for The Witcher 2 was that it wasn't bigger, it wasn't quite open world, and it wasn't longer. It was still a huge game and a fantastic game, but I just wanted more. And more is what I ended up getting. At that point, like I said guys, I was already hooked on the universe, the world, and the games, and I was really excited to discover that the whole thing was based off of a series of books. A large series of books, and I've always been a book reader. Now, unfortunately, I don't have nearly the time that I used to spend to read now, but I wish I did, and I still today read as much as possible. I just absolutely love reading. And when I do find a series that I like, I tend to dive in with no holds barred. I read the entire released books of Game of Thrones in like 2 months, I think. I would stay up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning every night, all week long, just reading them as fast as I could whenever I could. I love that stuff. So when I discovered that The Witcher had a book series and that there were fan translations of the books not yet translated to English, I knew that I was done for. You see, when I invest in a universe, especially one that spans both games and books, I want to read every bit of history, lore, and everything else that supports those bits of media. When I finish a book series, I immediately open up the wikis and dive into the connections I might have missed and the history I might have missed. It just makes it so real to me. So, like I would later do with the Game of Thrones series, I devoured the Witcher books as quickly as possible. I was downloading fan translations, comparing versions, rereading them whenever I could to get over sections that weren't translated well. I loved the series. And having read the books, and then, of course, dug into the wikis, I gained just such an appreciation for the world that had been created by the author. And I'm going to try and not butcher his name here. Sapkowski. I'm not going to try his first name, but last name, Sapkowski. Having read the books and then looked at the games which take place after the books, developed by CD Projekt Red, everything was just so much more real for me. I was beyond invested in the characters and their journey in the games. And over the last couple of years, I've gone back multiple times to both The Witcher 1 and 2 to replay parts of the game, and in the case of The Witcher 2, almost the entire game again, to just really appreciate the fan service that CD Projekt Red does put into their games. They don't just take the universe and expound on it. They really make it come home for fans that have just gone nuts like me and tried to absorb the entirety of the books and everything else. So then we come to The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt and the long road to release with multiple delays and a lot of talk of downgrades and can this game actually deliver. And I was a little bit nervous going into the launch because the change in scope was going to be massive. This is still a relatively small studio. Even though they had a couple of really amazing games under their belt, they were still kind of fringe in popularity. I mean, millions of copies sold, don't get me wrong, but it's no Grand Theft Auto. These guys are not super well known. At least, were not super well known. One thing that they've always had, though, is a love and appreciation of both their source material in the books of the Witcher series and a real respect and, honestly, I think a caring about their fans. Not only were the first two Witcher games reasonably priced and just fantastic games, there were tons of free updates and patches, little DLCs like new haircuts for the characters, and just all kinds of, once again, fan service, in this case, just straight up game fan service for the fans. You really do feel like you're an appreciated customer, and that the developers not only care about the world that they're creating and the game that they're creating and all the source material, but just you as a person and you as a fan and a consumer. They're excited to show you the game that they're excited to make, and that makes everybody just happy. It makes it so much more exciting to enjoy the game when it's treated like that. And then finally, we come to launch day, May 19th, 2015, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt launches to just incredible reviews. I was having a hard time believing it at first. 10 out of 10s, 9.5 out of 10s, 96 out of 100. Everyone was saying that somehow they had done the impossible. The game looked fantastic. It had great combat. It had incredible writing in the quest lines. It had fantastic characters. It had a gripping soundtrack that fit the world. And the entire journey was just the complete package. As soon as I saw the reviews dropping, guys, I knew how I was going to play The Witcher 3. I just planned it out from the beginning. I said, okay, I'm not going to rush it, I'm going to avoid spoilers, but I'm just going to take my time. I'm going to enjoy this experience, because if just the gaming press and the public is already so excited about this third entry in the Witcher trilogy, me as a fan that's so invested in the world and the characters, this game could be the end of me. But I want to absorb all of it as slowly as possible and just make the experience last as long as possible. So I set out into the game with that perspective. No regrets. 210 hours until I beat the main quest, and I still have tons of areas that I haven't even seen yet in the world. And I think what has really solidified The Witcher 3 as the best game that I have ever played is the intensity of the enjoyment across the entire length of the time that I played it. Every time that I launched the game, I was immersed and just having a fantastic time. I loved Skyrim in 2011. Like I said before, I'm a fan of the Elder Scrolls series and the Fallout series. I enjoy Bethesda's games. But for me, Skyrim had a point, probably about 90 hours or so in, where my enjoyment just rapidly started to fall. And I knew, okay, I'm starting to get a little bit bored, the game's getting a little bit stale, I'm not like loving the main quest. Let me just go ahead and wrap it up so that I can just look back on it as a fun experience. Basically, I wanted to wrap the game up before my experience soured too much. On the other hand, in The Witcher 3, I'm sitting here at that 210 hour mark, an hour after beating the main quest, and I'm going, I miss it already. That is why, for me, The Witcher 3 is just absolutely the best game that I've ever played. The advantage of having a set main character, one that I have read books on and played hundreds of hours of gameplay in previous games about, who has a supporting cast of characters that I'm already familiar with and know and actually care about, guys. I cared about the search for Ciri. I cared about the fates of the characters around me. That's something very rare to see in an RPG. And even if you're not quite as invested in the world and the characters as I am, the game does a great job at showing the interactions between these characters and the world around them, and helping you to care about them. If you came into this game with no expectations and no knowledge of the universe, by the end, I think most people would be really invested in these characters. And from what I've seen on the internet, on reviews, just the public as a whole playing this game, that's been the case for most people. It's just really good at making you care and making you enjoy the ride. Outside of just the overarching experience though, the game had all the points that really mattered to me. It looked gorgeous. I mean, yes, the game has had some lighting changes and some fog changes and some level of detail model rendering distance changes since the early trailers, but the world as a whole did not exist in those early trailers. We were looking at little chunks of the world. And I've said it before, but the people who insisted on ranting and raving about the downgrade and deceptive marketing and all that stuff surrounding The Witcher 3 really were missing the forest for the trees. They were missing the incredible looking game right in front of them. This is one of the best looking RPGs on the market, and I think it will remain so for a long time. It has its weak spots, the occasional low-res rock texture, the occasional slightly waxy looking water, and of course your usual open world RPG graphics glitches like the occasional pop-in. But the vistas, the weather, the lighting, the effects, it's such a convincing world, and it makes it so easy to immerse yourself in it. On top of the fantastic looking graphics and the environments, you have the soundtrack, which is not only massive, but so carefully tailored to this Eastern European folklore universe. There's not much to say about the music because it was exactly what I was hoping for. It's very clear that the designers of the soundtrack knew exactly what they wanted going into this game. They knew thematically what it was going to be, and they knew how to make the soundtrack fit the world. And then you had all of the fantastic supporting systems in The Witcher 3. The combat, while not necessarily super tactical Dark Souls for, players that are really hooked on that kind of system, the combat fits the game really, really well. It's brutal, and it always looks so cinematic. The devs did a fantastic job of making the combat look like it's described in the books. Besides fighting both monsters and humans, you got your bandits and your witch hunters and all that fun stuff, there were plenty of other distractions. Things like horse racing and fist fighting weren't mind-blowing fun, but they were good distractions. They worked pretty well, and I found myself trying to complete at least a couple of those quests over the course of my journey. And then you had Gwent, the surprise card game that no one expected to be that good. I enjoyed probably a couple of hours of dice poker in The Witcher 2, and was surprised to hear that it was not returning for The Witcher 3, but what we got instead was a surprisingly fleshed out card game that not only holds up really, really well in just gameplay, and it's just a lot of fun, but they wrote quest lines for it, guys, and just integrated the card game, the mini game, well, I guess not mini at all, but the Gwent game into the world. You see NPCs playing it, you can do quests where you can earn cards, or solve mysteries to help other people add cards to their decks. I mean, it just fits so well into the world, and then it holds up pretty well even in PvP. Myself and Joel bought a bunch of printed Gwent decks, and we've been playing like multiple times a week Gwent on our lunch break, and it's actually fun, and it's remaining fun. I can't wait to see what new things are in the future for Gwent. Hopefully a standalone phone app maybe, and some official printed cards, because I will buy those suckers immediately. I mean, seriously guys, even the add-on card game, the mini game in The Witcher 3, is fantastic. If I had listened to this video before the game came out, I would have honestly had a hard time believing that the devs could check so many boxes and get so many things right. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, as it released on May 19th, was the game that everyone was hoping it was going to be, and for me, it went so far beyond exceeding my expectations.